All right, so the Rangers split the pair with the Flyers, and so ends the season series against Philly, and it ends up in a dead tie. So as well as the Rangers played, it was some of those blowouts, very memorably, the 9-0 game, there was an 8-3 game. They end up tying, and really the theme here, and is in this Flyers-Rangers season series, is kind of what it was during the regular season for the Rangers, and that is just not finding ways to win close games. The key for them is once they take a lead, especially, to continue to score. And once the Rangers fall behind, it's definitely been a challenge for them to come back in different circumstances. So Jacob Trouba is out. He got hurt in the loss to the Islanders. In comes Zach Jones, making his NHL debut. And then also Anthony Bitetto is out, and Libor Hájek draws back into the lineup. Very odd in terms of the fact that Bitetto, who hadn't played in a long, long time, came back in for Hájek, and I kind of understood it partially for that second Devil game, like the fourth game against the Devils. But then the fact that Bitetto played again against the Islanders, I figured they would have gone back to Hájek, especially since Bitetto didn't really play well against New Jersey. A little mind-boggling, and again, you're in major evaluation mode. Bitetto is at this point, a journeyman, and Hájek is someone who you do want to evaluate. So glad that they went back to Hájek, but still perplexing that Bitetto replaced him for a couple of games. But I don't think Zach Jones is ready for the NHL, but still, good move getting him in there. And he really didn't play a whole lot in these two games. He played more in the second game. And I think he held his own. Again, he got sheltered minutes, and really, defense-wise, Brandon Smith was the one who ate up a lot of those Jacob Trouba minutes. So they were mixing and matching with the defensive pairs. But one key thing here, before we go into the recaps of these games, they finally made a couple of line switches. And before I say that, no Julien Gauthier, no Phil Di Giuseppe still. So as far as Gauthier goes, you would think that he would draw back into the lineup by the end of the season, but what it does tell you is this organization just doesn't view him that highly. And the Rangers definitely are pretty deep as far as wings are concerned. Like, it is going to be tough for him to crack the lineup. But me personally, I would rather see him in than Brett Howden. The Rangers like Howden, and obviously he does kill penalties, and he is a center. So, and I think age-wise with Gauthier is probably around the same. What I did like is that they switched Lafreniere with Kreider. Kreider, like I said, specifically even strength, is honestly not even neutral. He is a bit of a liability, in my opinion. And it just made sense to spread out these lines. So that was one change that they made, which paid dividends, especially in the second Ranger-Flyer game, where Lafreniere ends up getting a goal and an assist. Another change that has taken long, but it seems like it might actually happen, is Blackwell and Kravtsov switching. So Blackwell, the start of the second game with Panarin and Strome, but by the end of the game, Kravtsov would take his place and Blackwell would move to the fourth. So this, if we're going to assume that Gauthier and Di Giuseppe are out, and if we're also going to assume that Morgan Barron isn't going to be called up yet, I think he will by end of season, but maybe the Rangers are waiting till they're mathematically eliminated from playoffs. I'm not really sure what the wait is, but with these 12 forwards, I'm fine if it's going to be Lafreniere, Zibanejad, Buchnevich, Panarin, Strome, and Kravtsov, Kreider, Hedl, Kakko, and Howden, Rooney, Blackwell. Totally fine with that. I can live with that, and it's been an issue all season. Finally, I think they got it right. It's too bad there's only a couple weeks left in the season. You want to see Lafreniere with better players, and that kid line they couldn't really help each other out. Another thing that I'd like to see is maybe Hedl getting elevated to play with Panarin. We'll see if that happens. So, as far as the games are concerned, Rangers got off to a really good start in the first game. Really good. And the goalie matchup in this one would be Brian Elliott versus Igor Shesterkin. Carter Hart would not play either game for the Flyers. He's hurt. Sounds like it's not a long-term thing, but the Flyers are out of the mix anyway. No need to force Hart into the lineup. And the Rangers would get on the board first. Brendan Smith would score on a nice goal. One-timer from Keandre Miller, and Philip Hedl gets the other assist. So Brendan Smith it's interesting with him. He's actually been scoring some goals lately, or at the very least shooting the puck and leading to goals. And what I noticed with him is takes a lot of penalties, also draws a lot of penalties. It's a really sort of weird thing with Smith where you'd be surprised. I think he's among the league leaders in drawn penalties. But with Smith, I don't think that they'll bring him back, but we've seen stranger things. So I'll be keeping an eye out for that in the offseason. But Smith, whose Ranger career was good to start when they traded for him from Detroit, where he had a really good chemistry with Brady Shea and had some good success, especially in that Montreal series in the playoffs, and was okay, I still felt, in the Ottawa series in which they lost. And then really, once they re-signed him to the 4-year deal, it got really bad, but he's really recovered as best as he can. So kudos, to Smith for that. But the Rangers had a lot of opportunities to take a 2-0 lead, and you just had a feeling where, if they don't get that 2-goal lead, this could be a problem. So, Howden has a great chance 2-on-1 and just flubs it. I mean, he has no offensive ability. He only has 1 goal this year, and that was an empty net goal. Kakko had a wide open chance, missed. Panarin had a really good opportunity, stopped by Elliott. So it's 1-0. They kill off a Kreider penalty again. Really not happy with Kreider's game, especially in this one. And Rangers, again, they're killing off a lot of penalties, and Shesterkin had a really fantastic game in this one. Eventually, Adam Fox would take a high-sticking penalty. And I do feel like Fox's game, as you would expect because he was playing at such an elite level, has dipped just a bit. So Fox takes a penalty, and that hurts when you're really thin on defense with no Trouba in the lineup. And so, then you're forced to put, Hayek on the penalty kill-out points, which I know they don't really want to do. And James Van Riemsdyk scores a power play goal off of his face. Yeah. Don't know if I've ever seen that one before. Off of his face and in to tie the game up at 1. So it's 1-1 going into the third. But before that, at the end of the period, Hayek would take down Joel Farabee. So Farabee has a penalty shot, and Shesterkin makes the save. So the Rangers, I felt like for the first 30 minutes or so of that game, really controlled play. And it seemed like they were really about to just, beat the Flyers up pretty good again. You just kind of felt like the game was turning, and the Rangers were giving them too many power plays, and they tied up. And I didn't have a great feel going into the third, and I unfortunately was right about how it turned. So Keandre Miller takes a double minor penalty as he high-sticks Sean Couturier about 8 minutes into the period. And they killed off the first 2 minutes of it, but really poor face-off play, which we've seen a lot. And I just can't help but think so many times this year, Mika Zibanejad losing face-offs cleanly in the defensive zone, leading to goals immediately. And Van Riemsdyk on a deflection would score again. Now, keep in mind, Van Riemsdyk got off to a really hot start this season and has cooled down considerably, but gets 2 big goals in this one. But it doesn't stop there. 2-on-1 opportunity for Jacob Voracek with about 6 minutes left, and he would score to give the Flyers a 3-1 lead. So 3-1 Philly. And again, it just speaks to the fact that once they go down and once the going gets tough, the Rangers in those scenarios don't really come through. So maybe if they keep it at 2-1, they got a fighting chance, but they're down 3-1. And Artemi Panarin on a 6-on-5 with 2 minutes left would score, assist to Fox and Zibanejad to make it 3-2. The Rangers would get some opportunities with the goalie pulled down 1, but they would be unsuccessful, and the Flyers win at 3-2. And the Rangers now drop to... it's 4-9-6, naturally, right, because they have 6 overtime/shootout losses. And I know some of that is a little bit skewed in terms of empty net goals, but that does go both ways. It does seem like the Rangers were winning some 1-goal games, to be fair, and then scored an empty net goal to make it a multiple-goal lead. But the point is that this year they've lost a lot of close games in which they had leads, and that burned them this year. There's just no question. And there's so many factors. I mean, Zibanejad was just completely cold for, honestly, a good, maybe like a little less than half the season. So that was really bad. And, obviously Panarin being gone for 9 games and Shesterkin was out for 3 weeks. Things just didn't break their way. And we knew that this was going to be a tough division, 1-4. Again, 1-4. I think from like a Stanley Cup championship angle, not too sure if any of these teams... I like other teams more, but 1-4, it's really solid. And the Rangers had, and this is likely going to be a team that will probably be the best team that doesn't make the playoffs in all of the National Hockey League. So, maybe they could take solace in that, but really where they went wrong was just really giving up a lot of points in those close games. So the Rangers would respond in game 2. And we've seen this for the most part this season. And that's kind of why they are at legit 500. So the Rangers would win the second game to draw to 24-18-6. Another split. And that's pretty much been what you've seen for the most part. So this would be a matchup between Alex Lyon, the third goalie for the Flyers, and Alex Georgiev. And Georgiev, it's kind of an underrated story. Georgiev played really well in this game, and he's turned his season around a bit. It was looking like, whoa, like, what is this guy's future? But Shesterkin is clearly the starter, and Georgiev should be a serviceable backup. You know, no 1A, 1B situation in my mind, but Georgiev, and I think in particular, has really done well against the Islanders and the Flyers too. I think in his career as well, both of those teams, not just this year, Islanders and Flyers, he has their number. I thought, yeah, he was like the star of the game, but Rangers take the lead again. 6 minutes in, power play goal for Chris Kreider. Kreider gets his 20th of the season, and that's, I believe it's a 620 goal season, and assists to Panarin and Fox, who continue to, you know, increase their point totals. But Kreider, he is a net front presence on the power play. There is no denying that, but that's, I don't want to say where it starts and ends, but that's where his main value comes. 45 seconds later, quick response from Philly. Oscar Lindblom scores to make it 1-1. So you're thinking, all right, maybe this is going to be sort of a run and gun type of game, but that would not be so much the case. You would actually believe that to be, because a little more than a minute after the Lindblom goal, Buchnevich scores his 20th of the season from Zibanejad and Lafreniere. Again, I like Lafreniere with Zibanejad and Buchnevich. We saw it earlier in the year, and it kind of was touch and go, but it seems to be working now. So the Rangers make it 2-1. There would be no scoring in the second. You know, again, Georgiev really does a good job of kind of holding the fort. The Rangers would get that key insurance goal because it felt like, all right, as long as the Flyers can keep this 2-1, and if it gets late, there's a good chance they're going to tie it up, because the Rangers just aren't that type of team to really win that 2-1 game. It's pretty rare. They usually have to get that third goal, and they get it from Lafreniere. Scores his 9th of the season from Buchnevich and Zibanejad, so that line gets another goal to make it 3-1. And again, Lafreniere, you could just see it happening. He is looking so much better than he has. And whether it was underwhelmed, you know, in terms of how it's going to all go this season, I still think that we're definitely seeing signs of life from Lafreniere, and really no reason for major concern. Not everyone is going to come into this league and be Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews. I mean, those are some of the best players in the entire National Hockey League. You know, I definitely think that he's growing in confidence. You can tell he's getting better with his board work. And so he gets a big goal to make it 3-1. And then with a little more than 6 minutes to go, Philip Hedl scores from Kakko and Panarin. So again, just good to see the kids scoring goals. And Hedl, he was out for a while, and it seemed like he was ready to have a really big season. And even still, from a points per game standpoint, Hedl this year has done pretty well. And again, I would be interested to see what he could do in a second-line center role. Just give it a shot. And again, I'm not sure if they're waiting to be mathematically limited or what, but I'd like to see him get a chance with Panarin and see how that looks. Rangers take a 4-1 lead, and they would win by that score. So, you know, Panarin gets a couple of points here. Buchnevich, Zibanejad, Lafreniere, all with 2-point games. And I thought the distribution of time on ice was good here, where Jones, you know, played more than he did in the first game and held his own. He was a +1, played 13+ minutes and did fine. We'll see, you know, what the rest of the season holds. It'll be interesting. And again, you're really just looking for what the kids can bring. That's the key here. That is because, you know, the wins and losses, yeah, I mean, they're going to win some games, they're going to lose some games. That's how it's been all season. But I think especially in this second game, to get, you know, Lafreniere on the board and Hedl, that's good to see. So up next will be another home set, this time against the Sabres, who are playing much better hockey. This is not going to be some sort of walk in the park. Like, the Devils, if anyone, seem like the team where you're going to score goals in bunches against them. Buffalo has been a very pesky team and are playing some really good hockey. So I think the Rangers, they have to know this, because the last time they played those 2 games in Buffalo, I mean, these were close games. Both games went past regulation, and the Rangers lost the second one in a shootout. So I think they'll be ready to go, but we'll see what happens. And yeah, only 8 games left in the season, so we're winding down here. But I'll talk to you soon.